We've just sent you a new script.
Cool. Awesome. So what you do is, I will need some time to get back home. I cannot send you the reel right now. What you do is just send me the script.
But how will you even record
No, I'll
it
figure
now?
it out. You just send me the script, I'll figure it out. Alright, so my team has just sent me a script. The problem is that I am not home. So there is no way for me to make a reel on this. But what if I ask my AI agent to make this video? What if I can take this script and have a very fancy model say this in a very cool way? That is exactly what I will show you today. I'm going to take this script, put it into an AI agent that will convert it not into just a voiceover but into a proper AI generated video. And now, while the video is being generated, let me show you what's actually happening. This entire automation that you just saw on screen has been built by us using N8N. It's like Lego blocks, but for AI workflows. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to build the same AI agent step by step. If you're a beginner in N8N, don't worry because we will be covering the basics as well. Welcome to the Cutting Edge School enabled by the 01 Network by Zerodha. I am Ansh Mehra and this is episode 2 of our beginner's course on Agentic AI on N8N. In the first episode, we had covered what is an AI agent and how you can build an AI agent on N8N that helps you do some basic YouTube video research. So make sure that you find that video as well to keep your fundamentals sorted. This tutorial is split into 3 simple chapters. In chapter number 1, we learn how to connect Akool, a generative AI platform that provides you tools to create personalized videos and images using AI generated avatars. And we'll figure out how you can connect Akool to your N8N automation. And I'll also show you how to use the Akool API in N8N using the HTTP node. We'll also learn how to use curl requests, and don't worry about these terms because I will explain everything in just a few minutes. In chapter number 2, we'll learn how to get the avatar list and create a talking video from Akool. In chapter number 3 is where the actual automation will begin. We'll connect Telegram to our AI agent so I can just message it from my phone to trigger the workflow and get the final video on my phone. So whether I'm traveling or in a cafe or just working, the whole thing will run on a single command and send me the final video link on Telegram. And along the way, you'll also learn the basics of how APIs work, what JSON really means, how to import the curl requests, how to use the HTTP request node, and a lot more. And if you've already seen episode 1, this episode 2 will help you get a quick revision. And while we were talking, the video is actually ready.
Implementing AI tools for research and case management, Figma made some huge announcements at the
Isn't this absolutely amazing? So without further ado, let's get started. So this chapter is all about building a very simple yet a very powerful version of your workflow. Don't worry, there's no coding required, and I'll show you every single step in a super simple way. So this is our script, and for video creation in Akool, we will first need an audio file. So the step number 1 here is to generate the audio file. But before I show you how to connect Akool with N8N, I'll quickly revise the basics of N8N. So first, I'll head over to n8n.io and sign into my account. If you don't have one yet, it's absolutely free. Now, N8N offers a free trial on their cloud platform, and their paid plan starts around 2,400 rupees per month. But here is something a lot of people don't know about. You can use N8N completely free for life by hosting it on your own machine. Now, this is called self-hosting, and it's perfect for testing workflows and learning automations or even building your small personal agents without paying anything. But if you're just starting out, you can use the free trial. You can check out the official guide on how to self-host it. I'll share the link in the description. So let's jump back to building the agent. So once you're in, you land on the dashboard where all of the workflows are listed. To start fresh, click on the Create Workflow button on the top right corner, which will open up a blank canvas where you can start building your AI agent. You can rename your workflow by clicking on the default name at the top. To save your work, simply click the save icon or press Command S on Mac or Control S on Windows. Remember, whenever you make any changes to the workflow, always save the workflow because N8N does not support autosave. You'll have to save it manually. Now, before I show you how to add your first manual trigger node, let me tell you something very interesting. AI video generation is probably the most exciting development in the world of AI this year. And if you're a product marketer, content creator, or social media manager, this tool is the fastest way to turn your pictures into 4K videos. You can just upload your image, write a simple prompt describing your video, and Akool's image to video tool will generate for you within seconds. You can then add AI voiceovers and background music after finalizing the video. This way, you can generate reels and content without filming. In fact, you can start content creation using their AI avatars as well. Marketers and small businesses can animate product images for their ads without expensive production costs. Founders and professors can create explainer videos to train their teams and students. You can try this for free by going to akool.com. I'll put the link in description. So let's come to step number 2, adding our first node as the manual trigger. So we'll add our first node by clicking on the big plus icon on the center of the canvas. By the way, in all of these tools like N8N, nodes are the individual chunks, the steps, all of the mini parts of the process that actually take the data, transform it, or they pass the data. So when you're making a workflow, it is these nodes that are stitched together to receive an outcome. Now each node performs one task and passes the result to the next node, allowing you to build all kinds of complex automations very visually. Now this big plus icon opens up the node panel where you can search for different nodes to put in your workflow. In any workflow, the first step is to define how it will be triggered. In other words, what event will actually start this workflow. Now there are many ways to trigger a workflow in N8N, and we have discussed triggers in utmost detail in episode 1. So if you get confused here, please make sure you watch episode 1. So some common triggers actually include a manual trigger, a webhook trigger, which is that when someone submits a form on your website, that is how the trigger will get started. We have schedule, which basically allows you to run your workflow every hour, every day, or every week on a certain time on automation. Then we have app triggers when, let's just say, a row is added to your Google Sheet, or you have received a message in Slack or Telegram or any other app. For this chapter, we'll keep things simple and we'll use a manual trigger. So you have to search for manual trigger and click on this. The manual trigger node is used to start the workflow by just a click. So when you're building it or testing it, you don't require any external input. And this is perfect for local testing before you automate things and make it to the public, because you can just click and test how things are working. But don't worry, in chapter 3 of this video, I will replace this manual trigger with a Telegram message trigger. So the agent can run automatically whenever someone submits a script on their phone. Now, when you select the manual trigger from the list, this node will be added to your canvas automatically. You can double click on any node to expand its properties and settings. Now at the first impression, you might feel that this is too complex, but don't worry, I'll take you through all of this one by one. At the top of the node panel, you can rename the node to keep your workflow organized. And if you want to just run this step, you can click on test step to execute the current node. Step number 3 is to now add the script with a set node. So there are many ways that we can feed our script into the workflow. We can use Google Documents, Notion, or a form. But let's start with the simplest method, which is a manual copy-paste. For that, we will use a set node. The set node will let us define custom values. Now click on the More drop-down inside the set node. Here you will see two options. One is manual mapping, the second is JSON. In manual mapping, you need to fill out each field one by one, which is helpful when you want a quick form-like interface to define all the values. The other option is JSON, which allows you to customize the output using a raw JSON format. Now, I'm pretty sure you're confused. You're probably wondering, Ansh, what is JSON? Now, the full form of JSON is JavaScript Object Notation. It is one of the most common formats used to send and receive data between applications. So whether you're talking to an API or storing values or passing information between nodes, all of this can happen very smoothly with a JSON. Think of JSON as a very structured way to represent a huge amount of data using key value pairs. Think of JSON like a digital form where each key is a field like name and each value is the data inside that field like Akool. It's the most common language that APIs use to send and receive structured information, whether it's login credentials or video URLs or in this case, our script text. Don't worry if all of this feels slightly complicated because we will be keeping things very simple, and throughout the process if you do not understand something, you always remember the golden rule that you can go to ChatGPT and say that explain JSON to me as if I'm a 10-year-old. Coming back to the tutorial, just select manual mapping, click on the new field and add in the name box, type script and then paste your video script directly into the value box. Now click on test step to run this node. Once it executes, you'll see the output appear on the right side of the screen. Now this confirms that your script has been added successfully and it is now ready to be in the next node of my workflow. So let's come to step number 4 where we connect Akool using our HTTP request. Now we'll connect our N8N workflow to the Akool API so it can generate videos using AI avatars. To do that, we'll add an HTTP request node. Now this HTTP request node is how N8N communicates with external services like Akool or any other API. It allows you to send data and receive responses and pass that data along your workflow. Think of it like sending a message to another app along with instructions that you want it to follow. So in this case, we'll configure the HTTP request to call Akool's video generation API. Now, to fill in all the required fields in our HTTP request node, such as the API endpoint and headers and body, we will need to refer to the Akool API documentation. So just search for Akool API documentation on Google. I'll put the link in description as well. And you have to click on the official link. You land on this page. Now here you'll see all kinds of different APIs listed, depending on what kind of video or avatar experience you want to build. For our use case, we will click on Talking Avatar Documentation, which is the one that we'll use to generate our videos using avatars and voiceovers based on the script that we pass it. Now the first page of the documentation is the authentication page. So we need to set up an API key to authenticate with Akool's system. If you scroll down, you'll see how to generate your API token. But first, let's understand what is an API and an API key. An API, which stands for Application Programming Interface, is how two applications communicate with each other. An API key is like a password that proves that you are allowed to access a service. So in this case, Akool needs to know who you are before it lets you even use any of its features, and that is where this key comes in. Now, according to the docs, the token URL is this. Here, post is a method that means that we are sending data to the server, and the URL is called an endpoint. It is the exact address where the request is actually sent. So it tells the server what action to perform, like generating a token or uploading an avatar. So let's go back to our HTTP request node back in N8N. Here, you need to change the method from get to post because we are sending data to the server to request a token. Now, can you spot the difference? Get is for fetching data. Post is for sending data to a response like logging in or submitting a form. Now in the documentation, you'll see body attributes. The first one is client ID. So toggle on the send body option in the HTTP node. In the first field under name, type client ID and in value, paste your actual client ID. Now that we've read the documentation and filled in these parameters, actually wait. If you feel that this is a little tough, here's an easy way to do this. If you scroll down the page, you will see a code. Right above the code, you'll notice that it's labeled as curl. In the N8N HTTP request node, there is an option on the top right to import your curl, which helps you pre-fill the request fields very quickly. Now curl stands for client URL. It's a shortcut to send data or receive data from the APIs. Now we will copy this code and paste it into HTTP request node. This helps us fill out the fields in N8N's HTTP node such as the method, the URL, the headers and the body. Now here is the important part. While the curl helps you fill most of the request, you'll still need to manually add a few values that are unique to your project, like your client ID, secret ID, and your token. And this is where we come to step number 5, where we add all of our client ID, secret key, and our token. So Let's add our client ID and secret ID to the HTTP node so that we can authenticate with Akool. To get this client ID and secret key, you need to go to the Akool website. Start by logging to the website. Click on the profile icon and on the top right corner, you need to select API from the menu. Now click on Create API Credential and give a name to your API credential. This can be anything. And then click on Next. Now you will see your client ID and client secret for the API access. You need to copy these credentials and make sure to copy the client secret immediately after it's generated, as it will not be visible to you again. In fact, you should save it securely for future use as well. Now go back to your HTTP request node in N8N. Under headers, paste the values in the respective blocks. Now if you run this node, you will receive an API token, which is your key to access all of the Akool's features. Moving forward, you'll need to include this token in every HTTP request node to authenticate your requests. So, in each HTTP node, you need to go to the header section and set the key as authorization and the value as this. So you have to take bearer, put a space and paste your token variable. Now, let's go back to the API documentation. On the left side, you'll see AI Tools Suite. Select Talking Video from here. Now, if you read this section, you will see that there are 4 steps to create an avatar video. Let's go through them one by one. Step number 1 is that you need to generate the voice using one of these 3 methods. So if you want to use the system's built-in voice model, you call the Create Text to Speech (TTS) API. That will give you a link to the generated voice. Method number 2 is that you'd rather use your own custom voice and call the Create Voice Clone API instead. So that will generate a link using your voice model. Method number 3 is that you just provide a direct link to an existing voice file. Now we will be using method number 1 here. So click on the hyperlink of the Create Text to Speech, yani TTS. This will direct you to their API documentation. Now scroll down and find the curl request. Copy this curl request and go back to N8N and paste the curl request on the HTTP node. Now in the header authentication section, type your API token manually, or you can simply drag and drop the dynamic input variable from the previous node. In this way, I'm just passing the variable. Whatever values come, they will automatically get updated. Below this, you will find the voice ID. You will get this ID from the Akool dashboard. Go to the Akool dashboard and on the left menu, you'll see voice model. Now you can play the voice preview and choose any model. Click on Copy Voice ID. Now paste this ID on the Voice ID field. Next, you will see a rate parameter, which is basically your voice speaking speed. Lastly, webhook URL. Now this one is optional but really powerful. If you add a webhook URL here, Akool will automatically call it the moment your video is ready. Now you can use this to trigger other workflows in N8N, such as saving the video, posting it somewhere, or even sending a Slack update. But for now, we leave this as it is and manually check the video status using the next node. Now, test the node. Here, you can see that the node was executed successfully. Now, if you see, we didn't get any audio file. But if you carefully see the output here, the status is currently 2. In the documentation, we can see that 1 represents queuing, 2 represents processing, 3 represents completed, and 4 represents as failed. We can't rerun this node. Instead, we will use another HTTP request. On the last page of the documentation, you will find the get audio info result. Now, same as before, copy the curl request and paste it on the new HTTPS node. For the header authentication parameters, fill in the API token. Now in the query parameter, we have audio model ID. We can get this from the previous node name as _ID. Copy and paste the ID or drag and drop the expression to make it dynamic. Now if you run this code, your status will become 3 and you will get a MP3 file URL. You can copy paste the link on a new tab and also download it. Now we have our voice URL. So let's jump to the next chapter for step number 2. Now if you scroll down, you will see the Get Talking Avatar list heading and its curl request. Copy the curl code and paste it on the new HTTP node. But before you move on, make sure that you rename the node clearly. Since we'll be using multiple HTTP nodes throughout this workflow, having clear names will help you stay organized and avoid confusion later. Now drag and drop your token variable here on the authentication value. Now, if you scroll down, you'll see the first query parameter called from. At first glance, it might look a bit random, but it's actually pretty simple once you read the documentation. Basically, the from parameter tells Akool where to fetch the avatars from. If you put 2, you'll get Akool's official avatars. If you put 3, it'll fetch only the avatars that you have uploaded yourself. And if you leave it empty, it'll just return everything both official and your own. So yeah, just drop in the number based on what you want to use. Now based on this information, we will fill in these values. Since I want an avatar uploaded by the user, I will type 3 in the value. Now there is one parameter missing, which is in the API documentation, the type parameter. So on the query parameter, click on add parameter, and on parameter, write type, and on the value, write 1, so that we only get the talking avatar list and not the streaming avatar list. Now let's run this node. Now in the output, we will get a list of avatar information, including name, avatar ID, and URL. Now you can see that the total number of results is 6. You can view each avatar by opening their thumbnail URLs. Simply copy a URL, paste it into a new browser tab, and preview the avatar visually. Once you find an avatar you like, simply copy its video URL and make sure it ends with .mp4, and we'll use this in the next step. In chapter 3, we'll take you a step further. You'll actually learn how to send each avatar image to your Telegram automatically and preview them directly in the chat and pick your favorite one from there. Now, create a new HTTP node and go to the documentation page. Scroll down to create talking avatar. Further scroll down and find the curl request. Copy the curl request and paste it into a new HTTPS node. Sometimes when you copy the curl, you might notice that the URL starts with something like testakool.io. That's just a placeholder or testing endpoint. Before running it, always double check and match the URL with the actual post endpoint given in the API documentation, just to be safe. Now for step 1, go ahead and paste your API token in the header section for authentication. That's what gives you access to use Akool services. Now scroll down and you'll see a box where some code is written. This is called a JSON object. This JSON defines the structure for generating a talking video in Akool. First, click on the little arrow or drop-down icon next to the field to expand the JSON. This will show you all the nested values inside. It includes 3 main input fields: an image URL that sets the background, a video URL that loads the animated avatar for lip syncing, and an audio URL that brings in the text-to-speech generated voice, all combined to create a seamless talking avatar video. We have generated the audio file, and as a result, we got a URL ending with .mp3. Copy that URL and either paste it directly into the JSON object or connect it using the dynamic variable from a previous node. Here is the key point. If the input value keeps changing, you should drag and drop a dynamic variable. But if the value is fixed, you can simply copy and paste it directly into the field. Dynamic input allows the entire flow to run automatically without needing any manual input at each step. Now, we need an avatar URL. From the previous node, we got a list of avatars. From there, choose any avatar you like and paste the URL here. Now in the image URL field, you can paste the same avatar thumbnail URL or any image URL, since this acts as a background or overlay. But keep in mind that your avatar video will appear on top of it and likely cover the image, so it won't be fully visible in the final output. Alright, before we run this node, let's quickly fix a few things inside the JSON body. Let's update a few key numbers. Step number 1 is width and height. Look for the width and height properties. Change the width to 1920 and the height to 1080. This gives us a full HD video output. Clean, crisp, and ready for any platform. Step number 2 is for offset X and Y. Now keep the same width and height 1920 into 1080 for the avatar video. Set the offset underscore X to 960 and the offset Y to 540. But why choose those numbers? Because 960 is half of 1920 and 540 is half of 1080. This will center the avatar right in the middle of the frame, which is exactly what we want. Once you've completed these updates, proceed to test the node to ensure everything is working properly. As a result, we will get an ID, a video ID, and a video status. As you can see, the video status is 1, which means that the video generation is in queue. Let's see step number 4, which is to get the video info. So let's add another HTTPS node. Return to the Akool documentation and scroll down. Now you will find the get video info details. Just like before, copy the curl request and paste it into a new HTTP request node. Now for step 1, go ahead and paste your API token in the header section for authentication. Now open the properties of the getInfo HTTP node and the video model ID field and drag and drop the variable ID input from the previous node. Before running the node, the video generation can sometimes take a little while depending on the script length. Between these two nodes, make sure that you add a wait node and set the wait time to 2 minutes to provide some buffer time. Now click on this plus icon and search for a wait node. Now set wait amount to 2 minutes. Now run this node, and after 2 or 3 minutes you will get a video URL. We can place this same wait node between the audio generation and the audio status nodes and set the wait time to 20 seconds. This helps because sometimes the audio takes a bit longer to generate, and without the delay the next step might run too early and return an error or empty result. Alright, now that we have tested everything end to end, let's move on to chapter number 3, where we will make this workflow fully automatic using Telegram. Alright, so far our workflow runs when we click on test workflow. But that's not really automation because our trigger is still being manually operated. Let's make this agent run from anywhere, right from your phone using Telegram. So step number 1 is to open Telegram and search for @botfather. This is the official Telegram bot for creating other bots. Start a chat with botfather and follow the steps to create your new bot. Once done, you'll receive an API key. Now keep this safe as you will need it to connect Telegram with N8N. Step number 2 is to head back to N8N and add a new Telegram trigger node. Click on the plus icon and search Telegram. Now click on Telegram and scroll down and expand trigger, and then click on message. Now we have to fill in the credentials first. So click on create new credential. In the node, paste your bot's API key on the access token field. Now test this step. This sets up the connection between Telegram and N8N, and now whenever you send a message to your bot on Telegram, it will automatically trigger your N8N workflow, allowing anyone to use it and access our agent. To keep this safe, you can see that we have a chat ID here. Now use this chat ID to proceed with this automation. Add a new if node to the flow. Once you open it, you'll see a section titled Conditions. Now here is what we'll do. In value 1, drag and drop the Telegram chat ID variable. This is the one coming from the message payload. In value 2, simply paste the chat ID you want to allow as plain text. And for the middle dropdown, select number to equal to. Now when this condition is true, our workflow will run. This ensures that your workflow only runs if the message comes from the approved chat ID. Now if we paste your script on Telegram, the conditions will be true and we will get our script as the output. So now the next step is to make our bot reply that, "Hi, please send me your script." So add a new Telegram node and select send a text message. Now in this node, choose your Telegram credentials again. Now set the message text to something simple like, "Hey, please send me your script." Then fill the chat ID here. Now in step number 4, we need to add an if condition. But wait, we don't want to reply every single time someone sends a message. We only want to respond when someone says hi. So to do that, let's again use the if node. Go ahead and double click on the if node to open its settings. Now add a new condition. In value 1, drag and drop the incoming message variable, the one that holds the user's message. In value 2, just type hi manually. From the operator in the middle, select text is to equal from the dropdown, and that's it. This sets up a condition that checks whether the incoming message is actually hi. Also, this verified our chat ID because the operator between them is set to AND. In this context, and or are logical operators that are used to define how multiple conditions should be evaluated in your workflow. And means that all conditions should be true for the node to proceed. For example, the user ID is correct and the message is hi. Or means that any one condition being true is enough to proceed. Example, the user ID is correct or the message text is hi. Now let's wire this properly. If the condition is true, connect it to the send message node. That is where we reply with a greeting or intro message. If it's false, connect it to the main workflow, the one that takes the script, generates the avatar video, and sends that as the output. Now hit run and test each node one by one. When you type hi, you'll receive a reply. But you might notice an extra line saying that this message was sent automatically with N8N. To remove that, open your Telegram send message node and find the append N8N attribution option and toggle it off. Then rerun the node, and this time you'll get only your message, clean and without the attribution text. Now run this again. This time, instead of saying hi, go ahead and type or paste your actual script. You'll notice that the condition returns false. So it skips the greeting and directly runs to the main workflow to create the video. But in the voice generation node, link this script output as a dynamic variable in the input text field, so it can generate audio from our script. Now, to get a video ready message plus video URL, pause the video and try to create. Let's create this. Duplicate the message node and connect it to the last node, which is the get video info node. Now, drag and drop the text URL variable into the message, and also write a custom message before this. If you're not getting any result, it might be because you have to rerun the previous node. Now link the final video URL on the Telegram message. Now click on test workflow, which will run the entire workflow, and you will receive a message with a video link. Now step number 5 is to choose the avatar from Telegram. Now I want all available avatar images directly on my Telegram so that we can choose an avatar. Do you remember that we get avatar preview images from the avatar list node? Here is where we will use them again. So firstly, we will send the avatar images to the Telegram. To do that, first, add a Telegram send a photo message node. In the chat ID field, paste your own chat ID. Now for the image, drag and drop the thumbnail URL variable here. But the thing is, Telegram can only send one image at a time. If you try adding a list of URLs, even if it's 2 URLs, it will throw an error. Imagine trying to send 100 avatars. That won't work in a single message. So the solution here is to use a split out node. Now let's solve this step by step. Insert a split out node between the avatar list and the Telegram node. Click on the plus icon and search split out. In its field, drag the full array of avatar results. Now run the split node. You'll notice that it only sends one avatar per run, starting from the first. But here is the magic. This node will loop over each avatar one by one, meaning that if you have 6 avatars, it will run 6 times once per avatar. So now we will connect the split out node to the Telegram photo. So we'll go back to the Telegram send photo node and replace the photo input field with the thumbnail URL output from the split node. Now run the flow, and you will receive 6 avatar images on Telegram, one after the other. As you can see, we're getting duplicate images after the third avatar. Now this is not an error of N8N or our workflow. If you check all 6 images, the thumbnail URL that we get from the avatar list node, they're the same after the third image. Sometimes the API may also duplicate data. So it's always important to cross-verify the data that you receive from the API. Now, let's send the avatar ID next to each image. So let's add another node. I'll go to Telegram and select send message. In the message text, drag and drop the avatar ID from the split node output. This way, every image you receive will be followed by its respective ID. Now paste your chat ID again. So I want to choose the avatar and send a message to N8N. So let's insert a Telegram send message and wait for response node. Paste the chat ID again. Write your message like reply with the ID of the avatar you want to use and set the response type to free text. Now run this node. Now on Telegram, you'll see a message with the clickable button labeled response. Click on it and this will open up a new page where you can paste the ID of the avatar you liked. Now go to Telegram, pick one of the avatars and reply with its ID. You'll see the selected ID appear in the output of that node. Then we will use this ID to get the avatar details. So go to Akool's API docs. You'll see a new get avatar detail request. Copy the get avatar detail curl. Paste it into the HTTP request node. Set the method to get, and in query parameters, link the ID value to the ID that we get from the split node. Now run this node. You will get the full avatar object including status, processing info, and most importantly, the video URL. Now connect this HTTP node to a talking video node. Then open up your talking video node and update the JSON body where the avatar URL field is with the new avatar URL variable. And you're done. Save your workflow. Now test the entire thing. To access it from outside of N8N on the top inactive node, toggle it on and make it active. But now you can't run it in N8N. but you can access it through Telegram. And just like that, you've made your own first AI video agent accessible anywhere from your phone or laptop with zero manual clicks inside N8N. You've turned a very exhausting manual workflow into a real fully automated agent. Now, I know that all of these things might sound complicated, but it's extremely important for you to start at least knowing how these things work, because eventually they will get easy. But with time, you need to know the fundamentals and the vocabulary to build your own agents. Now, students, I know that for the first time, you will be slightly intimidated as to what is happening. The problem here is that we wanted to quickly take you through the process and then teach you how to fix these things on your own. I know that this was not a step-by-step tutorial, but because we had to squeeze in a very complicated subject in a shorter video in a span of say 30 to 35 minutes, we had to skim through the steps. But I'll tell you two important ways to learn this properly and practically. Step number one, I want you to watch this video and just take notes of the basic process, the logic, because in future we will have AI agents to make AI agents. So execution is really not that valuable. The real skill is to have the vocabulary and to understand how these things are working. And let me know in the comment section if you want us to release episode 3 as well. In just a few days, I will be releasing more advanced N8N videos so that you can learn this highly valuable skill on your own. Let me know in the comment section if you enjoyed this video. Do not forget to click on subscribe, because without your support, it's very difficult to make these high in-depth videos. I hope that you're taking care of your mind and body. This is your dost Ansh Mehra, and you are learning from the cutting edge school enabled by the 01 network by Zerodha.